Hello everyone and welcome to Life with Aprons. It is almost dinner time at our house and we are having crash hot potatoes for dinner tonight. It is one of our favorite meals and today I'm going to show you how to make it. Join me. I really love this recipe and my family really likes it too. We are making beef ribs tonight with green beans and crash hot potatoes, and I want to show you how we're going to do it. Now, you can use different kinds of potatoes for this recipe. I am using these really small potatoes. They're about inch and a half in length. You can use bigger potatoes. I wouldn't use really big potatoes. It's not going to work. The biggest you're going to want, it's like those golden potatoes that you get at the store, that kind of size, and that's going to be the best size for this recipe. I'm just going to take these potatoes. They have a few sprouts on them, so I'm going to go ahead and clean them up, and I'm going to get these sprouts off of here, wash them, and then I'm going to put them in a pot of water and set them to boil just until they're a little bit tender. You don't want them falling apart, but you just want them a little tender enough so that you can take a potato masher and mash them, and it's not going to be too difficult to do that. Okay, I've got my potatoes cooking and now I'm headed to the garden. We are having fresh green beans for supper, so I am going to pick a whole basket full of green beans. I like to pick them right before supper because then we get the maximum amount of nutrients out of those green beans. And that really goes for any vegetable in the garden. The minute you pick that vegetable off the vine or the plant, it begins to go down in nutrition, and so you really want to pick it as fresh as possible. So I'm going to finish up here, get a whole basket full of green beans, and then go cook them on the stove. The potatoes are done, and now it is time to crush them, just as the name says. They are fork tender, and I'm just going to hold this up so you can see it. It just goes into the fork really nicely there, and that's going to be perfect for our crash hot potatoes. I'm going to take them and just put them in the baking pan here. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is take a potato masher here, and I'm just going to begin to push that down and let it mash into the baking pan. You're going to want a little fork here to try to get some of that potato off of the potato masher, but you just go around and just begin mashing every single one. Okay, now that every potato has been mashed, that looks really good. I'm going to salt it. Potatoes, in my opinion, need quite a bit of salt. So I'm just going to sprinkle salt all over the top. You can use as much or as little salt as you want. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper. And then I picked some rosemary from my garden. We're doing beef tonight, and rosemary does really well with beef, and so I thought I would just add it to the potatoes. Sometimes I will use paprika, a little bit of garlic, maybe some oregano or parsley. It just really depends. You can get creative with these crash hots, and you can honestly put whatever topping you want on there, and it's going to taste really good. All right, the last step that I'm gonna do before I put it in the oven, I'm gonna add a fat. And when I say a fat, I have butter here, but you could use tallow as well, or bacon grease. I've used both of those before, and obviously the bacon grease makes the potatoes delicious. I don't have any bacon grease on hand right now, but I'm just gonna pour the butter over it. And the reason why I say to use a fat, I wouldn't recommend olive oil. Olive oil is not made for a high heat, and these are gonna go under the broiler. And so you really don't want to be putting olive oil on top of this, because that olive oil is going to break down. It's not going to be healthy for your body anymore. But butter, tallow, bacon grease, those are great things to put on these potatoes. These are ready. I'm going to pop these in the oven and put it on the broiler on high, and just wait till the tops start to brown, and then they are ready to go. Now that my potatoes are in the oven, I'm gonna start working on our beef ribs. These ribs actually came from a cow that we recently butchered. This one we raised ourselves in our pasture, and it was really time. And so I have all of these beef ribs that really came out our back door. I'm just going to first dry them off, get them nice and dry so that the rub that I put on them will stick to it. If you're wondering why I'm using a cloth, I don't use paper towels. I use reusable cloths, and so that's what I'm doing, and I'll just wash that. I'm gonna salt it first, front and back, and then I'm going to use a seasoning that I kind of put together myself. In fact, I actually sell it at a market that I do. And it has garlic, onion, rosemary from our garden, a little bit of parsley from our garden, and I just put all those together and keep it in a little container. This one is a bag that I sell at the market, but I keep it in a container so that I have it on hand whenever I need it. And I'm just going to sprinkle that all over the meat on both sides, the front and the back. And then I'm gonna cook these in the Instapot. I really like cooking my beef ribs, my pork ribs in the Instapot. I feel that it gets the most tender in the Instapot. And then once I finish cooking it, I put it in the oven and let it broil a little bit on top, and it is delicious. When I put it in the Instapot, I add at least a cup of beef broth. This is beef broth that I made from our bones. So I'm gonna put that in there first. It's got a lot of flavor. You can see that little layer of fat on there. That's gonna give it a ton of flavor. Then I'm gonna put my grate into the Instapot and just begin to layer my beef ribs so that every spot gets that steam and from the beef broth. And then I will let it cook, and then I'm gonna move on to finishing up the green beans. When I sort my green beans, really all I'm looking for is if there's a blossom or a bug or something like that on the green bean. I want to make sure I get it off before I put it in the pan. I typically don't rinse my green beans. I know that's probably a no-no, and people are like, what? But I like to have a little bit of the pollen on my green beans because that gets into our body and it helps with our allergies. I'm gonna throw it in the pan with some butter, and then I'm gonna salt it and just let it saute for a little bit, stirring occasionally, and they're ready. I don't have to do a lot to these fresh green beans. You cook them just a little bit in the pan and they are super crunchy still. I don't cook the death out of them, and they're nice and sweet as well. Guys, it is time to eat. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have a new recipe to put under your belt. Crash hot potatoes are amazing. They can go with breakfast, they can go with lunch, they can go with dinner. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.